Okay, welcome back to KBRC Dialogues. I have with me Atulya and Meenakshi. So, guys, today's session we have on the topic unhinged women in literature. Okay, so I know you both of you guys read voraciously and almost on the same kind of I think literary fiction, modern literary fiction. You guys prefer modern literary fiction, and you must have come across many. I mean, fictional work or non-fiction as well, where woman plays a pivotal role. So, നമുക്ക് അതിലേക്ക് കടക്കാം. So, the question. Let's go to the definition. What does the term unhinged mean in the context of female characters in literature?
Usually consider broad-ആയി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ എനിത്തിങ് വെരി സിമ്പിൾ ടേംസ് ക്രേസി ഡിസ്റ്റർബ്ഡ് കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് അങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു അർത്ഥത്തിലാണ് യൂഷ്വലി ദ മീൻ അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ്. ഇത് ഒരു അംബ്രല്ല ടേമാണ്. ഇറ്റ് ക്യാൻ ഗോ ഫ്രം എന്താ പറയുക പീപ്പിൾ വിത്ത് ആക്ച്വൽ സൈക്യാട്രിക് ഡയഗ്നോസിസ് ടു പീപ്പിൾ ഹൂ ഹാവ് ബീൻ ലൈക്ക് മിസ്അണ്ടർസ്റ്റുഡ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മിസ്ട്രീറ്റഡ് ബൈ ദ സൊസൈറ്റി. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെ ഒരു അംബ്രല്ല ടേമിലുള്ള മൾട്ടിപ്പിൾ ജോൺറാസ് ഇൻക്ലൂഡഡ് ആവാം ഇതിനുള്ളിൽ തന്നെ.
It could also be a perception error also on behalf of the society. Society could see certain women behaving in certain ways and call them unhinged because they feel that these women are exhibiting some deviant behavior, something unnatural. So it may not be exactly something that you exhibit normally. So that is why the society would find them unhinged or problematic or crazy, and they have these adjectives that are attached to the women that they see. Women basically they cannot explain in other terms. So that's something that the society has given women rather than women inherently claiming it as of themselves.
എനിക്കൊരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഉണ്ട്. വെൻ വി സേ അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ് വുമൺ, എസ്പെഷ്യലി ഇൻ ഇന്ത്യൻ സൊസൈറ്റി, അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ് വുമണിന് ഒരു നെഗറ്റീവ് കോൺനോട്ടേഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. ഇൻ എ സെൻസ് ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു നമ്മൾ നീ ഒരു അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ് വുമൺ ആണ്, ഇപ്പോൾ ആൾക്കാർ ഒരു എന്താണ് ഒരു വേർഡ് വായിട്ട് ലൈക്ക് എന്താ പറയുക, അതൊരു നെഗറ്റീവ് കോൺനോട്ടേഷൻ ആണ്. ലൈക്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഡസൻറ്റ് കം അക്രോസ് എ പോസിറ്റീവ് ട്രേറ്റ് ഇൻ എ വുമൺ. So when we read in a fiction, that's very refreshing for every one of us. Okay, so now we have cleared out what unhinged mean. Telekom, so basically, which literary unhinged woman do you find the most compelling, and why?
For me, personally, I was just telling her earlier that there's this book called I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. So I think the main character in that is like very evidently unhinged in the eyes of society. And also as a reader, you would also begin to find her very unhinged because she makes very problematic choices throughout her life. It's a woman in her early 30s, late 20s, and she has pretty much every bit of crisis that any woman in her late 20s have gone through. And as a product of these, she is so done with the whole extravagant like consumeristic society that's being shoved down upon her, and she is so angry at everyone, and also she is finding ways to cope with this anger that she has. So the entire book is basically like a rant, her rant on this whole lifestyle influencer culture, and her basically questioning how people know how to curate their life and how she can't achieve that. And you can see the frustration that she feels. It's very palpable throughout the book. So it's a very frustrated woman in her late 20s, and also it's coming out in odd ways. It's coming out in all the wrong ways also. The way she's obsessed with a woman she sees online, the way she's obsessed with a man who is in love with this woman, and the way she combines this obsession with two different people and how she stalks these people online. And you can see that she's very disturbed woman. She probably needs a couple of years of therapy or maybe more to get out of this rut. And so I find that as an author, I feel like it's very challenging to write such a negative character. and without us wanting to throw the book. So without irritating the reader, I feel like she's laid bare all the thought processes of this very unhinged character. So I found that book very compelling because it was something tender and sensitive and triggering in many ways. And without me being frustrated as a reader, I could enjoy the book, which is why I found this particular character and the book compelling. And Meenakshi, would you have any?
There are many women. There are many unhinged women that really compel me. But recently, I read a book. It's called Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. It's a story of a woman. She was an artist back in the day, but after getting married and giving birth to her son, she decides to take time off work. She quits her job. She stays home as a child carer for her son. And the thing is, her husband is always out of the house and he's never home. She's alone, and she's lonely. She's miserable. She's feeling frustrated, and she believes she's turning into a dog. That's the storyline. I'm not going to spoil the book. Yeah, it's called Night Bitch because she feels like she's turning into a bitch at night. Fundamentally, there's a lot of symbolism in this book because she's filled with rage to the brim, but she cannot express it because as a mother, she's not supposed to. And you cannot help but wonder if her husband was in the picture, was helping her a bit more, ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവുമോ? Towards the end, obviously, there are explanations that are given, more or less. But at least my reading of the book is like this. This is a woman who thought she had to tick all these boxes, right? Okay, Kalyanam, I'll marry, I'll have some kids, take care, and I have to quit because my husband earns more, so it makes sense that I'll stay at home. But she has no support, and it really, it really pushes her to a place where she is losing it, and she's trying to communicate that she's losing it, but the society doesn't want to admit that a woman who makes these choices can sometimes lose it, because this is the propaganda that's being sold, right? This is a dream that's being sold. As a mother, you should feel fulfilled, otherwise there's something wrong with you. So really engaging read. Great literature, maybe not. Great read, yeah, definitely. So this is one book that really made me think.
So along
Ponder.
those lines, because you were talking about this whole propaganda where you have to conform to certain societal norms, I was just thinking about Earthlings, another book along the similar lines that I read. In Earthlings, the basic theme that's explored is how the main character sees society as a factory. So the main character thinks a society is a factory where you grow up, you meet a person, then you start making babies, then the cycle just goes on and on and on. So she's so done with this, and the whole book is about her basically dealing with her trauma, and she has a lot of out-of-body experiences, and her imagination runs wild as a method of coping with this trauma. So this character can be portrayed as a very unhinged woman if you don't understand the trauma she's been through. So it's only because she has to develop some way to cope with this trauma that she is using all these unhinged strategies. And it's a very good book that explores a lot of sensitive topics, and it's about societal norms, how we are all slaves, enslaved by the societal norms. And the title of the book, Earthlings, I think it's about how these people, she also finds a bunch of other people who also think along the same lines, how these people kind of reject their non-earthling side, and they embrace their alien nature, and which is why the book is titled Earthlings, because all you see around you is earthlings who somehow magically know what to do, somehow know how to conform to the society, who are somehow accepted in the society. And the book is about a bunch of non-earthlings or aliens who decide to live in the taboo world, live in the non-accepted world. I think it's an interesting read. What do you think?
I found the book to be very interesting too. but towards the end I was a bit it was a bit overwhelming, so I would
I understand.
definitely ask everyone who wants to read it, go through the trigger warnings, know what you're getting into.
Sayaka Murata. It's a Japanese author. I think all her works are very
Yeah.
compelling. I think
Very
even
compelling.
Convenience Store Woman, I wouldn't exactly call the protagonist in Convenience Store Woman unhinged, but also she's an unconventional protagonist. So
And that can often be defined
Yes,
by as
exactly,
unhinged by
exactly.
a society, especially a society like the Japanese society, where you have to tick those boxes, you have to present a certain way, otherwise you are like pushed out from the normalcy. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, Sayaka Murata's books are very a good option if you are trying to pick up books from this genre. So
So basically, I have so many questions based on this. First question: what is the limit of where do we draw the line of a woman being unhinged or of a woman being toxic? A border എവിടെയാണ്
women
വരുന്നത്?
being unhinged and
Toxic,
Toxic.
coming across toxic. So, because എവിടെ ഒരു ബോർഡർ ഉണ്ടാവല്ലോ, അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് വി cannot justify her every action. So do you guys have any thoughts on that? Like അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു എന്തെങ്കിലും ബോർഡർ ലൈൻ ഉണ്ടാവോ? ലൈക്ക് ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഇപ്പം അഫ്ഗാനിസ്ഥാനിലെ വുമൺസ് അവരെപ്പോഴും വെയിൽസിലാണ്. അവർ ജസ്റ്റ് വെയിൽ പൊക്കിയാൽ തന്നെ അതൊരു അൺഹിഞ്ച് വുമൺ പറയാം അവിടുത്തെ സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് അനുസരിച്ച്. സോ അതൊരു ആ ബോർഡർ വേറെയാണ് ആസ് കമ്പയർഡ് ടു ഇൻ വെസ്റ്റേൺ കൺട്രീസ്. ഒബ്വിയസ്ലി വി നോ വാട്ട്സ് ഹാപ്പനിങ്. അവിടെ അതിൻ്റെ ഒന്നും ആവശ്യമില്ല, ബട്ട് അവർക്കും അവരുടേതായ ഒരു ഡെഫിനിഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവും. സോ വാട്ട് ഡു യു ഗൈസ് തിങ്ക് ഓഫ് ദിസ്? ലൈക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ അക്കോർഡിംഗ് ടു യു ഗൈസ് വാട്ട് draws the line of a woman being unhinged or woman being a toxic? Like this area, this is not cool.
I think it's a very, like you said, it's a very subjective line. I don't think we can have a clear-cut line for all of these. So without understanding the background of a woman and like what she's been through and where she's coming from, I don't think you can draw the line. So even if you meet someone in real life and if you ask me like, come here, do you think she's unhinged? She's crazy, right? If you ask me a question like that, I can't give a clear-cut answer without me personally trying to sit with the other girl and trying to understand what she's been through, the things that shaped her into what she is being portrayed as. And unless you understand the journey of the woman, I feel it's very difficult for us as objective people to say that, oh, this is where I draw the line and this is where she crosses the line. Unless I know the background of the woman, I don't think I can answer that in a definitive manner.
Correct. സോറി, ഞാനും അതിനൊക്കെ വരുന്നത് ബിക്കോസ് ഈ അൺഹിഞ്ച് വൺ നമ്മൾ പറയുമ്പോൾ ഇൻ എ വേ അവരുടെ എൻവയൺമെൻറ്റും വി ഹാവ് ടു ടേക്ക് കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റ് കൊടുക്കണം. ലൈക്ക് അവരെവിടെയാണ് താമസിക്കുന്നത്, ഐ മീൻ ദ ജോഗ്രഫി, ദ കൾച്ചർ, everything comes into the picture when we try to define the unhinged woman as a topic. Do you want to add on to it? Okay, sorry.
I just want to say, even when we discuss the term unhinged women, it's not where we try to whitewash these women being unhinged or their actions. No, we are not trying to do that. What we are actually doing is we are looking at the nuances and trying to decipher that term. So, when a person does something, so we can, it's not always easy, right, to say if it's okay, this is right, this is wrong. Sometimes it's easy. When you kill a person, it's wrong. When you kill when you do something, when you help a person who's in trouble, it's good. But sometimes, what if you kill your child's rapist? There are nuances. And just like that, even here, there are nuances that we have to offer to them. But the term unhinged women is so popular, or it's coming into play nowadays. It's because this luxury of the nuance, the subtle okay, maybe something was going on, the kind of thing was not offered to these women. Yeah. So that's why we look at it from a historical context. May I talk about a book? Yeah.
Yes.
So there's this book called Yellow Wallpaper that I read recently. It's a short story.
Yeah.
So it talks about a woman who has multiple episodes of who has depressive episodes after giving birth to her son. So you look at it, and this book was published in the 1890s. So personally, did I like the writing style? I'm not a big fan, but I can look at the premise and understand that this book was very much needed at that time, because this was a time when, like, when a woman said, look, I am not feeling well, this was often considered, oh, she's throwing a tantrum, oh, this is her being dramatic. And the word hysteria,
comes from
it
the
has a very
hysteria.
biased, it comes from the word hysteros, which means uterus in Greek. So any woman who doesn't do her womanly duties, like, take care of her husband and child, or it's probably because her uterus, her womb, is moving throughout her body and causing her to act out. This was what the Greek physicians believed in the day. And even in this story, her husband is a physician, and when she says, I'm not feeling well, her husband and her brother goes around saying, no, she's okay, because according to them, she's physically unwell. No, so she must be doing what women do best, drama, creating drama. So there's this misunderstanding, and and not just misunderstanding. It's not that the husband doesn't love her, but there's this downplaying of a woman's concerns. And I think that's why this story is important. That's why this term unhinged women is important, because there are inherent biases, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. It is a reality. So.
Okay, interesting. I wasn't aware of that. The word hysteria. Oh, nice. Okay, so let's go deeper. ഇപ്പം നമ്മൾ നുവാൻസിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞു. So along with that line, do you think these unhinged characters are often misunderstood or misrepresented in our society, or in our society? You guys have any take on that?
Yes. So if you are going to talk about a book like Carrie, so I think everyone, if not most of all, I think most of you must already know the story.
At least we've watched the movie.
At least watch the movie, right?
Yeah.
So this is a story of a woman who has telekinetic powers. So she can move things around and do stuff like that. And thing is, I had very I did not know much about the story. I had watched the movie, but when I read the book, I don't know, I knew it was good, but I did not expect it to be that good. It's a really good read, because you can actually see her background. Her mother is a very religious person, and even in the first scene, she's on her period. She gets her first periods, and she's unaware of what is happening. Then leads to bullying, and thing is, she kind of tries to be like, okay. She tells herself, yeah, it's fine. But then towards the end of the book, there's one incident that really makes her snap, kind of lose it. And the thing is, when you read the book, you understand that when people talk about that incident later, they'll talk about this person who lost it, who kind of did all this bad stuff. But nobody talks about they do acknowledge it. But when you really look at it, you have to understand that this was a person who was clearly mistreated, misunderstood, neglected, and it led to a very tragic ending for her and for so many other people. And even when she was trying to communicate, it was like she did not have sufficient support systems. And I think she is one example of a woman who was clearly misunderstood and called unhinged, even when the whole thing could have been avoided very easily.
It's like years of resentment and like suppressed anger, and a lot of she didn't have any sort of support system around her. She didn't have friends, and all she knew was her primary caregiver, who was completely abusive emotionally and also physically as well. So she did not have any other means of letting it out, no means of venting whatever she was feeling. So it was like a snowball effect. It was like years and years of oppression, oppressed feelings boiling inside her that led her to snap one fine day. But we all know her only from the snap. We don't know her what led to the snap.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the story of the snap should be told through.
Yeah, they talk about it.
So I think in literature like this, literature on unhinged women are important, because I think we all need to know the story of the snap of every woman, every unhinged woman.
No, I mentioned this one because everyone talks about that one infamous scene but it was not that one scene that finally made her snap. It was like you said, it's a snowball effect, yeah. And I think rage is a big thing when it comes to unhinged women. There are like I think that is the biggest emotion that leads to the further
I think it's
scenarios,
like a
yeah.
parallel. Like unhinged women is sort of having the equal amount of weightage to female rage.
Yeah.
Like female rage is what boils into this final term called unhinged women. Like
And that
eventually.
explosion, yeah, is called being unhinged most of the
Male
time.
rage വരുമ്പോൾ people like hero like അതൊരു hero connotation ആണ്. Male rage വരുമ്പോൾ it's like heroic or a macho or something. But female rage വരുമ്പോൾ people start to attack on that. അതാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ തുടക്കത്തിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ തന്നെ എടുക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ അൺഹിഞ്ച് വുമൺ അവരെ നെഗറ്റീവ് കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ നോക്കുന്നത് നെഗറ്റീവ് ആസ്പെക്ട്.
Yeah, I was actually like, because you were mentioning this, like I was talking about this book earlier called Women and Other Monsters. So it's a non-fiction book. It's about how women have been monstrosized in mythological texts. And like you can probably recollect so many of these monstrous women like Medusa, Circe, and all of these women. Like nobody knows their stories, like what led them to become monstrous. Like so yeah, so which is why I feel like a lot of retellings are important. Like now you can see a lot of Greek retellings. So I feel like all the Greek mythological texts we have right now are something that's written entirely through the patriarchal lens, because back in those days we didn't have that many female writers. So it was inevitable that these texts get written by men. So I feel like a lot of things get lost between the lines, and we don't understand a lot of rage these monstrous women were feeling. So I feel that's why a lot of retellings like Circe is important, because Circe is a very popular book. It's about this sorceress like who was cast out into an island because of something wrong that she did. And like I said, like something deviant that you do, anything that's somehow not the norm in the eyes of society, you get cast out, you get marginalized, you get monstrosized, and you are somehow becoming the bad guy. And then she's cast out into an island and she's living alone. So there's this gaze of the society that's implying, oh, she's this kind of strange woman who is living alone. There must be something wrong with her. So that's how the society views. Even if these days, I feel like a lot of people from the older generation, I don't know if it's still prevalent in our generations, but you see a woman who's unmarried, who's living alone, and she has a bunch of cats, like the trope says, and she is kind of odd in her mannerisms, and she does odd things. You are immediately like eager to label this person as, oh, there's something wrong with her, that crazy lady from the other flat.
Crazy cat lady.
Yeah, crazy cat lady is a term. So I think we are very quick to label people this way. When what's wrong with a woman living alone? What's wrong with a woman not wanting kids, not wanting a husband, not wanting something the society collectively wants? So it's such retelling, such stories that we need through modern literature, so that we can shift the lens and view, take a fresh perspective on women in literature, not just monsters, any kind of complex female characters in literature. I feel like retellings are important for this reason.
I think നമ്മുടെ conversation we have covered so many of our questions, because I was coming to ask you because like ഈ അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ് വുമൺ എങ്ങനെയാണ് എംപവർ ചെയ്യുന്ന വുമൺ ഇൻ സൊസൈറ്റി. ഐ തിങ്ക് വി ഹാവ് കവേർഡ് ദാറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ ദ റേജ് തിങ്. സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് ഡയറക്ട്ലി ഗോ ടു ദ മെയിൻ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ. ഐ തിങ്ക് യു ക്യാൻ കവർ വിത്ത് ദാറ്റ്. അതെ, ഇതും നമ്മൾ കവർ ചെയ്ത്. ഹാവ് യു എവർ റിലേറ്റഡ് ടു അൻ അല്ലല്ല ഓക്കെ ലെറ്റ്സ് ടോക്ക് അബൌട്ട് ദിസ്. ഹാവ് യു എവർ റിലേറ്റഡ് ടു അൻ അൺഹിഞ്ച്ഡ് വുമൺ ഇൻ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ, and what drew you to her character? Like I got in the step at like any unhinged woman that you really like.
You want to go first? Or I can go. So I think the woman from this is very relatable for me. Honestly, so this book is called My Year of Rest and Relaxation. It's by Ottessa Moshfegh, and it's about a woman who is, I think, in her mid 20s or something. She decides to sleep through an entire year with the help of psychiatric meds. Like basically not like full time of sleeping, but like it's like she has a few waking hours, like few hours of consciousness, but otherwise like mostly she's trying to sleep throughout the day. And she decides to do this as a form of self-care. She genuinely believes that this might fix her. And what's her problem that I understand from the book is that she is severely depressed. She is depressed in the sense she's being bothered by this, I think, existential ennui, that's what you call it.
Yeah.
So I think she's there in life. She's basically bored of everything. She is just so done with everything in life. And she's heavily depressed that she just wants to numb down everything that she feels, and she just wants to take a break. She does not want to process so many things because in the current age that we live in, we are like bombarded by so much information and so much from your environment that it becomes a bit much, and you just want to go into power saver mode after a while. You just want to disconnect. So she decides that this will genuinely cure her this whole year of rest and relaxation, and the whole book is about her journey through the entire year, how she achieves this feat of resting for an entire year. And I find this relatable not because I actually want to do this. It's not a self-help book. Do not try this at home. I mostly understand. I like this narration because it's very personal and it's a lot similar to how we view life, how the inner monologues are very similar to how we see. I mean, she's not a very likable character. Definitely it's not a likable character. She has these very random, odd, definitely sometimes even problematic thoughts, very politically incorrect thoughts. But then again, these are all laid bare. And who are we to judge? We also have these thoughts. We can't always, all the time, think politically correct in politically correct manners. And so it's a very personal account of a lot of these thoughts, and because she's so done with life, she doesn't care if her thoughts are very nice and justified and pretty, and she doesn't care what the society thinks of her. She just wants to disconnect. She just wants to just leave me alone is what her thought process is. So I related with this character so much because it was I could relate to a lot of parts of depression that was described in this book. When you start feeling this need for lack of emotions and you stop feeling things and all of these. So I feel like it's a good portrayal of a very depressed person. Depression can be in many ways, but this specific form of depression in the current 21st century is, I think, very relatable. I think a lot of women will also be able to relate to at least parts of the book, if not all. So I think, yeah, I personally like this character quite a lot.
ഈ ബുക്കിനെ കുറിച്ച് ഐ എം ടോക്കിംഗ് അബൌട്ട് മൈ ഇയേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് റെസ്റ്റ് ആൻഡ് റിലാക്സേഷൻ. ഇത് ഭയങ്കര സീരിയസ് ബുക്കാണോ അതോ ഇത് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ഭയങ്കര ലൈറ്റ്ലി ആണ്
funny book actually. It's a light take. I would call it dark humor or something. It's dark humor. Yeah, so it's a fun read in a way, also a very heavy read. It's simultaneously fun and heavy because it's discussing very sensitive topics such as mental health and like anxiety and depression and things like this. Also, it's it's narrated in a very funny manner also because the thought processes that's described by the author, it's very funny. It's very blunt. Some of her answers to the conversation between her and her friend, it's very curt, and sometimes you just want to talk that way, and sometimes because you have to be this nice person, you can't talk that way. And when you're very depressed, all that filter is gone.
Whatever.
You just take off your mask and you say all these rude things. So yeah, I like how rude she is, and we all want to be rude in our lives, but we can't.
I think whenever I read a book of about unhinged women, okay, I'm supposed to look at you, right? Yeah. So whenever I read a book about unhinged women, I feel like I can relate to parts of them, like almost all the unhinged women I read. And I think in this book that I mentioned, Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. Here, it's the story of a mother. So, am I a mother? No. But as a Indian woman who has grown up in an Indian household, there's so much I could relate to. Especially, there's a scene where the husband, like he comes like once or twice a week. Sometimes he's not home for weeks on end. And he came home and he's like, okay, you know what, I'll help in bathing our son. And she's like, finally, I'll have 10 minutes to myself. Because the son is 2 years old. So she never has any personal time. And he sits on, he lets her toilet seat down. He sits on it, starts scrolling on the phone. And he says, oh, okay, I think our son needs a dry towel. Bring it here.
God.
Oh, yeah, I think our son needs toast. Bring it here. And this reminded me of all those times my grandfather tried to help out. And he would do something. But at the end, he would create so much mess, so much extra work as a result. And my grandmother will have to pick it up. And this, I think a lot of Indian kids can relate to this feeling.
There's a term for that.
Yeah.
Weaponized
Incompetence. That's what I wrote in my review. I was like, weaponized incompetence, nobody does it like an Indian dad or a granddad.
Exactly.
Because it's so common.
സഹായിച്ചില്ലേലും ഉപദ്രവിക്കാതിരുന്നു.
And the women are like, okay, I don't want your help, I'll do it from now on. So I felt that, and the rage I felt inside me, I've never had it happen to me personally, but I have seen this happen to a point where, I'll tell you something, the women in your family, when they talk to younger girls in the family, they say stuff like, if you don't want to keep washing plates in your husband's house, you better study. And it's not that they think washing plates is a bad task or anything. Like, plates have to be washed. It's a very necessary task. But they say it because they know it's a very ungrateful task. Nobody's gonna appreciate you for doing your work because it's just something you do. Like, when your husband goes out and he does stuff, that is paid labor. When all this unpaid labor that you do at home, it goes unnoticed, unappreciated, forgotten. So that was very triggering. And all this story is happening to a white woman, completely different background. Like she says, it's she's white, she's in a developed country, like different cultures. But still, there was so much I could relate to, especially when it came to how the society perceives her, and having to tick all those boxes as a mother. Like, pushing out a baby is a big task, but somehow the most magical act of actually giving birth, that is not enough anymore. You have to take, okay, have you joined a mummy's club? Are you happy doing this? Do you have the newest thing that your baby needs? It's a competition. It's fucked up, and she's losing it. And there's nobody to help. There's nobody to listen. So yeah, utterly relatable.
I think all of these books are
Absolutely.
actually these are all privileged women,
Yeah.
but still it does not mean that privileged women also, like, they're so perfect that they are not deserving of problems or anything of the sort. Like, I feel like privileged, underprivileged, any sort of woman you take, I feel a lot of struggles are common, regardless of your privilege or your setting. I feel a lot of women, which is why she said, like, although she's like an Indian woman, she could very much relate to what the suburban white woman was feeling. Because, like, at the core of it all, if you boil down things, I feel all women are hurt in the same way. We are all sad about the same things or similar things to at least like 60-70%
The
of these
details are going to be
things.
different, the minor details, but yeah, the pain is
Pain
more or
is
less
the same.
Yeah.
അപ്പം നമ്മൾ ഒരുപാട് ഡീപ്പ് പോയതിൽ സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് ജസ്റ്റ്
We should wrap it up.
no that's good actually. I think we needed that. So നമുക്കിതൊരു എൻഡ് ചെയ്യാം with a good question. How do you think these characters can inspire readers, especially girls, to embrace their imperfection and their complexities throughout their life, especially unhinged women in literature? There are unhinged women in movies, but we can talk about literature only. Anyone can.
You want to go?
I'll just say something. I think it inspires women to speak up and speak out, because at the end of the day, some of these women in these stories, there are two options. Either they go completely unhinged and they get no support and like they don't speak out, but finally it leads to them snapping, or they actually speak out and sometimes they get help, sometimes they don't get help. Like, at the end, it's sometimes good things happen, sometimes they don't. but I believe these books will inspire people to actually talk about it, because not talking is definitely not going to help. And when you talk about it, you have to understand that sometimes you may not get help, so you will have to press really hard, and you have to seek help in such a manner that you have to approach the right people, and sometimes you have to cut off so much from your life to gain so much. And I think these books make it very clear. And personally, I think women, even when you have no issues, you think you're fine, you feel like, oh, I'm a very normal person, I'm not unhinged, I don't have to read this, but just give it a read. Like all these books, go through the trigger warnings, give it a read, because there are some elements which you can actually relate, and then maybe you can take something in, and you can act however you want, but the output may be different, but I think the input is absolutely necessary.